So the reason I'm making this video 2 days after the film has released is because my obviously biased view of Mahesh Babu. Everybody who knows me knows how big of a fan I am of him, and regardless of how the film would be, I would defend the film. I can't do that right now because the film actually really sucks. It's incoherent in its writing. So before we get into the actual review, I want to say that this is far better than Sarile Runikeru. This is far better than Sarkar Waripata or Maharshi. It's better than those films. So if your standard is set over there, you will not be disappointed. But again, so this is bad for different reasons. They are bad for different reasons. At least they had a coherent plot, and it feels like that film was written and people knew what they were doing. But in Guntur Kaaram, it felt like 4 to 5 different films sticking to it, and not that's not because they have different plots or it's lifted from different films. It actually feels like it was 4 to 5 other films that were stitched together, because there are scenes which end in between a character's dialogue. There are scenes which just end abruptly. There are scenes that start out of nowhere. There are characters that are introduced out of nowhere. There is no bridge between a few scenes. The only saving grace, however, and forget my bias, you go to any review and they would say that it is Mahesh Babu. His acting, his persona, his charm, the way he dances. I mean, he literally carried the entire film on his shoulders. And the second person who carried the film with him, as much as it hurts for me to say, it's Manoj Paramahamsa, the DOP, who I really hate, but there are shots in the film that are absolutely brilliant. I mean, the color grading still sucks. I mean, typical Manoj Paramahamsa. But there are shots in a few fights of the film which are really, really, really well done. I mean, there are shots that are 360-degree turning shots. There's like really good ramp movements, and they are really well done. I mean, visually the film looks good, and that's about it. The songs don't make any sense. The background score is probably the worst background score I've seen in a starlet film in, I don't know how long it's been. The longest time I've seen a starlet film with this bad background score. And Trivikram's writing, I think Trivikram is dwelling more into the Lakey style of writing, which is disgusting. Lakey is disgusting in Telugu. There are very cheap dialogues, though. It's absolute shit show, man. The whole thing. I don't even want to talk. I'm so reluctant to making this review, but I really wanted to talk how incoherent the film is. Apparently, this film was supposed to be an action film, and then it got written to something else, and then they wrote something else, and then something else. Because there's not a single thing in this film that ties together with the plot. It starts off really well, actually. The initial 5 minutes of the film are really well done, because you actually get into the story, and even Mahesh Babu's entry is tied in with the story. It's not just empty entrance that happens in every other star film. It actually ties with the plot, and I thought, okay, they're going into a story driven mode, and then Srila comes, and that's when you know the film is gone for good. And it literally takes one really simple plot point. It drags itself to the interval where it's inevitable that the plot point is going to be solved towards the interval, and then after the interval, just to keep the story running, we get into a lot of cliches, a lot of shit, and then we get into the actual story. And to talk about the actual story, it's really, really good. Okay, so the story of the film, whatever it discusses and whatever it handles, it's actually really good. The source material is really good, but if you see the film, this source material comes towards the last 20 minutes of the film, and till then it's just absolute emptiness. I mean, towards the last 20 minutes you get to know the whys, you get to know everything else. I mean the plot of a son longing for his lost mother and not knowing why his mother has left him could leave the character in a lot of trauma, but we don't choose to show his trauma, but we choose to show him as a badass who's like this, who's like that, who has no pain at all. We see those pain, we've seen that pain in a few glimpses, but again, it's never dwelled deeply. I mean, it sucks to see when you delve into a really shitty love story more deeply than your actual plot, which is really sad to see. To see big writers do that, because it obviously forays smaller writers to think that, okay, we might get away with showing quote unquote mass moments by not going into the actual story or the screenplay. I mean, it's a shit show again. I mean there are characters that just pop out and pop in out of nowhere. you have taken the audience for granted, and it's so well seen in this film because you can literally see characters uttering dialogues, and there's no dubbing to it, and it's just cut in the middle, and you know that the scene was supposed to be longer. You just know that. I mean, there are shots in the trailer, there are shots in the teaser, but they chose not to include them for some reason, and you use them for promotional material, and you haven't given any other promotional material, and we are waiting for those moments, and we know for a fact that you have not shown them to us, and it's so like you've taken them for granted. There could have been really good scenes, but they were cut off or anything else. I mean, it's like you take bad takes of each shot and then you stitch them together. It's like that. It's like an indie filmmaker trying to cut scenes out of nowhere just to save the time. Oh god, this is such a film. This is such a bad film, man. Oh god. But again, the only saving grace in the film is again Mahesh Babu, who's oh god, he's brilliant. I mean, not because I'm a fan. It could be any actor, and he could have done the same thing, and it would have been brilliant because what Mahesh does in the film is it's phenomenal in a way where his carefreeness adds a lot to the character, and you actually see the character as a character and not Mahesh Babu, which is refreshing to see, but only if they delve deeper into the character, deeper into his own insecurities, his own trauma. It could have been one of the best Telugu commercial films in the last 5 years, but Trivikram chose to shit all over it by including the typical heroine tropes, which he's prone to us for the last 5 years or 6 years, and it's coming to a point where it's getting vulgar. So yeah, Guntur Kaaram is incoherent. It could have been a good film, and that's what sucks the most about it, because you take a good story and basically shit all over that, and then you have this film. It's like they wanted to add they had Sri Leela and they had to make a dance, and hence there's a dance. There is no coherence to any scene. It's like it was like vignettes of, it's like burst of scenes, and there's no connection between those scenes. So yeah, Guntur Karam is a very dull 2.65 or 2.5, 2.75. Okay, it's in between 2.5 and 2.75. You make it out. So yeah, it's a 2.75, and those 2.75 I would give 2 to Mahesh Babu. Absolutely brilliant. If you really are a fan, you just go watch his film. You will be amazed. You will probably enjoy it. But yeah, that's about it. Thank you.